For decades, titanic forces, from colossal corporate behemoths to Wall Street regulators, committed the exact same fatal error when dealing with Apple. They believed that brutal, overwhelming scale would be enough to crush them. Microsoft tried to suffocate them with a universal operating system. International business machines, known to the world as IBM, tried to eradicate them. Beneath the sheer crushing weight of enterprise dominance and limitless capital, even their own internal board of directors staged a violent, merciless coup to cast out their own founding visionary, leaving the company bleeding and directionless. Any other technology startup on the face of the earth would have filed for bankruptcy, liquidated its physical assets, and faded into the forgotten, pathetic footnotes of Silicon Valley history after absorbing such catastrophic consecutive blows. But instead of vanishing into the void, they did the unthinkable. They absorbed the devastation, relentlessly reverse-engineered the strategies of their enemies, and executed a cultural, hostile takeover of the entire global consumer technology landscape. This is the story of how Apple invented the concept of the lifestyle computer, turned the global market into a ruthless war of psychological dominance, and learned how to lose battles in order to ultimately win eternity. To understand the absolute depth of this corporate empire, we must rewind time far back, to the late 1970s and the dawn of the 1980s. The world has been sold a highly sanitized, romanticized public relations myth. We are told a harmless fairy tale of two barefoot college dropouts tinkering in a dusty California garage, driven purely by the innocent utopian desire to democratize computing for the common man. This is a monumental historical illusion. From the very first days, their ambition was dripping with the absolute ruthlessness of an empire in the making. When international business machines entered the personal computer market in 1981, Apple did not cower in the shadow of the corporate giant. They purchased a full-page newspaper advertisement mocking the undisputed king of technology, printing the words, "Welcome IBM," seriously. It was not a polite greeting, it was a vicious declaration of holy war. They were already operating with the psychology of an apex predator, convinced that the future belonged not to the faceless corporate drones in gray suits, but to the architects of digital desire. The primary weapon of Apple was never just having access to billions of dollars in venture capital, nor was it building a microchip that processed data slightly faster than the competition. Finger, their ultimate weapon, was entirely invisible. It was the cultivation of a cult-like corporate culture and the meticulous construction of the walled garden. Finger. They engineered a beautifully designed, inescapable ecosystem deliberately built to financially and psychologically trap the user. Finger. While IBM and Microsoft sold fragmented software and highly commoditized hardware, Finger. Apple insisted on absolute totalitarian control over every single piece of glass, metal, and code. Finger. They elevated the operating system into a religion. Finger. This ideology turned the entire global industry upside down, forging an almost fanatical consumer loyalty. Finger. That completely defied all traditional economic laws of supply and demand. Finger. This concept was so violently powerful that it forced the rest of the global market into a state of sheer desperation. Finger. Frantically attempting to copy their aesthetic and their proprietary ecosystem. Finger. Only to realize they were light years behind the aesthetic dictatorship that Apple had already established. They experienced a brilliant golden era in the early 1980s, introducing the Macintosh, defining graphical user interfaces, and basking in the astronomical wealth and absolute hubris that comes with redefining human interaction. But hubris always demands a blood sacrifice. The corporate apocalypse arrived swiftly and without mercy. A vicious internal power struggle led to the board of directors, exiling their founding chief executive officer, Steve Jobs, in 1985. Without its visionary tyrant, the company spiraled into a dark, agonizing decade of disastrous product failures, massive market share collapse, and the terrifying reality that Microsoft and IBM had definitively won the personal computer war. By 1997, Apple was exactly 90 days away from total, irreversible bankruptcy. Then came the ultimate corporate plot twist. The defeated empire engineered a miraculous, almost terrifying resurrection. They brought their exiled founder back to the throne, and instead of fighting the old lost war against IBM, they methodically reprogrammed the entire market. They swallowed their pride and accepted a $150 million financial lifeline from their sworn enemy, Microsoft. They ruthlessly slaughtered their own failing product lines, cannibalizing their own past to forge the iMac, and soon after the iPod. They digested their defeats, stole back the cultural narrative, and rendered the entire IBM personal computer lineage utterly obsolete. The undisputed victor of the 1990s was ultimately digested by the loser. Fast forward to the modern era, and the sole survivor of those ancient tech wars now finds itself in a state of crisis once again. Apple is currently being suffocated by massive antitrust lawsuits from the United States government and the European Union, threatened with multi-billion-dollar fines and facing a wave of relentless regulatory pressure, explicitly aimed at cracking open the gates of their precious walled garden. Startups and sovereign nations alike are attempting to break their absolute hegemony over software distribution and artificial intelligence. But in the face of this existential threat, they executed a radical, shocking pivot. They poured tens of billions of dollars into proprietary silicon microchips, completely severing their decades-long reliance on external processor giants, and heavily shifted their financial gravity toward subscription services and spatial computing. This was not just a corporate whim. It was a statement to the world. We are not a relic of the past. We are a modern superpower, and you will reckon with us. Today, two simultaneous realities of this empire exist in a brutal, irreconcilable paradox. On one side, there is the vision of a terrifying dystopian monopoly, a $3 trillion behemoth that dictates global market access, aggressively stifles independent developers, and holds absolute, unchecked power over the digital lives and private data of billions of human beings. On the other side is the romantic, brilliant, and indispensable creator of the glowing glass rectangles that modern society simply cannot function without. They forge the ultimate corporate mechanism for survival. They do not fade away. They endure the darkest winters, absorb the venom of their rivals, and violently reshape the entire global economy in their own sleek aluminum image. Because sometimes hidden behind the simple logo of Apple, there is a quiet, invisible war. A war between the disruptors they were in the past, the monopoly they are today, and how the world wants to see them.